I'd like to hear both David and Alberto actually on that topic. And maybe David well, would that really be something that would change China's position from internally? And I certainly remember that it's not always that easy to get the allies to agree on something that may seem politically and geopolitically wise to the US, but not necessarily viewed by Europe, for example, as being in their commercial interests. And maybe Alberto, you can also comment on that. And I'm not sure if you're allowed to do this, but I'm sure you are, just drawing on your experience in the New York Fed. I know that you were very involved in issues of how China wanted to get more legitimized in financial markets. So that's another. But David, let me go first to you, and then to Alberto.
Okay, good question, Caroline. So it's easy for President-elect Biden to talk about working with allies and trying to develop a common position on China. It's actually going to be quite difficult. I hope we strengthen our relations with Europe, but you know better than anyone, the Europeans have very specific demands. They're unhappy with the US use of tariffs and managed trade, the US blocking the dispute resolution in the WTO. They want to tax our internet companies. So I hope the Biden administration can compromise on a range of these issues so that we actually get better collaboration with Europe. And then when he goes to Japan and South Korea, those leaders are going to talk about how disappointed they are that the US is in some economic sense withdrawn from Asia Pacific, pulled out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, not pursuing new trade agreements. So I think it's a great idea to coordinate with allies. And the question is, does this team think it's the old days where that means the US stakes out a position and everybody falls in the line, which I don't think is realistic at the moment? Or are they actually willing to, listen, change positions, et cetera? And then in that ideal situation, that will have some marginal influence on China's decision-making. I think there are a lot of technocrats and middle-class people in China who are unhappy with various actions of Xi Jinping. They're not revolting, but they're worried about the deterioration in relations with the US, some of the aggressiveness in the South China Sea or along the Indian border. So I do think a coordinated approach from the US and allies that involve welcoming China into various things if it meets standards, I think that would, it wouldn't get an overwhelming change in Chinese policy. We shouldn't be naive about that. But I think it could get a significant change in Chinese policy. And I think that, that would certainly be welcoming. It would be welcomed by our Asia Pacific allies if we can work out that kind of relationship with China.